Welcome, everybody. You're listening to APSO 21's Weekend Wrap-Up Podcast. Here is your host, Kevin Ferrara.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Weekend Wrap-Up. As you heard, I'm your host, Kevin Ferrara, and first and foremost, I just want to give a shout-out and thanks to all of our audience members around the world who are tuning in, listening to these podcasts. Typically, we talk about firefighter health and safety on here. We've been talking a lot about PFAS, as you know. But for this episode, we have a special guest. Her name is Susan Wind, and she's going to talk about coal ash. And probably a lot of you have not heard about this, much like me, until we connected on social media. And she educated me about what coal ash is. Up to that point, I literally had no idea what it was and the hazards and toxicity of it, and the impact it has on the human body. So this is going to be a great podcast. We're going to talk a little bit about it. It's about an hour or so in length. There's a lot of information we try to compress into this one, but I think you're going to enjoy it. And she also has a message for an event that she is organizing that's coming up here later on this year. So be sure to stay tuned to this podcast. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe, like, hit the button, whatever you need to do to make sure that you don't miss any of our episodes and you're notified of things that come up here on the podcast. So with that, before we get started, we're going to go ahead and listen to a quick promo from one of our sponsors, that being First in Wellness. And make sure you take advantage of those promo codes that they have. It's a really great program that they offer, physical fitness and overall wellness and health. So, stay tuned. Listen to First in Wellness. And then when we come back, we're going to go ahead and start talking with Susan Wind and about coal ash. Stay tuned. Being an emergency responder involves risks, but you have the power to mitigate such risk. Kevin Ferrara here from APSO 21's Weekend Wrap-Up Podcast, and I want to introduce you to First in Wellness. Their mission is to provide affordable and easy-to-follow programs that don't require a complete lifestyle change to experience more energy, restorative sleep, and confidence in your body. Offering individual and group programs that produce guaranteed results without sacrificing your long-term health and well-being, First in Wellness is so confident in their programs, if you're not satisfied in the first 60 days, they'll completely refund your money. For a limited time only, use promo code AFSOFIT15 to get 15% off their First in Fitness program, or use AFSORES50 to get 50% off their First in Resilience program. First in Wellness also offers grants specifically for group resilience program. To learn more about First in Wellness, head over to firstinwellness.com. That's firstinwellness.com. All right, folks, welcome back. And as I said at the top of the podcast, our sponsor today is First in Wellness. So make sure you give them some love. Take advantage of those discounts out there. They are an outstanding organization that provides both physical workout programs and health information for firefighters, police, and EMS. So, take advantage of that. Check out their website and get fit. So with that, folks, as I said, our special guest today is Susan Wind. She's somebody that I recently connected with, dealing with PFAS and some other issues. And she is going to talk today about an issue I honestly had no idea about, and that's going to be one of the topics she's going to talk about is coal ash. So with that, I'm just going to cut right to it and introduce Susan Wind to the audience. So welcome, Susan.
Thank you so much for having me today. I've met some amazing people through the years, but I always say the circumstances we all have to meet on is pretty tragic and sad, right? But silver lining out of some of this work is you do meet some amazing people. So thank you.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome. It's an honor to have you on the show.
Thanks. I'm going to do my best to kind of tell my story, and I can educate some people on some of the work I'm working on currently, and then what it's led to today with how I'm now connected with firefighters, military vets, I mean, mothers across America. So you'll kind of get that whole story here.
Okay. Awesome. Looking forward to it. So introduce yourself to the world. We have global listeners. So
yeah.
please do.
Pretty much, I'm a mother is how I introduce myself. That's my first role, my first, label, I guess you could say out there. But my story started 5 years ago when my oldest daughter at the time was 16 and she was diagnosed with papillary thyroid cancer. It was not common that young girls got this type of cancer. We did not have thyroid cancer in our family that I knew about. I mean, it was a shock for all of us. So I had to put that information out because I obviously stopped working, prioritized my family, and I knew a lot of people in our community. I was living at the time in a town in Lake Norman, North Carolina. The lake is pretty much a beautiful area. The northern part of the lake is where I lived on, and it was called Mooresville, North Carolina. But after my daughter was diagnosed, I started getting neighbors knocking on my door and phone calls with all these people that had thyroid cancer and thyroid disease all over the place. And I guess I was in shock and took that information to some doctors I trusted outside of Lake Norman because we traveled for our daughter's care. And then I learned, they said that's not normal, that you have all those cancers in your street and around your house, around the block, in the next neighborhoods. And the first thing I did was panic to say, is this safe? Like, I don't even know what to say here. And I have 3 kids in total, my husband and I and our dog, and I didn't know what to do. So I wasn't going to just stick around and do nothing. So I ended up finding people that would try to help me, scientists that, again, did not live in the area. They lived in the state, but I went to them and I said, I need help. And they were like, well, that doesn't sound right. Doesn't sound normal, but we have no money to help you. There's no funding. Problem number 1 in this country. There's never any funding for proactive studies to see why people are getting sick. Didn't know this at the time. And then I went out. I guess you could say I was a little bit I felt helpless and I didn't have that kind of money to front. So I went out and did a 5K in 5 months and told my story and pleaded with everyone like, hey, this is not just my kid. It's a lot of kids and a lot of adults. So I raised $109,000 the first time to be put towards a study. And I gave it to these chemists to say, help me figure out what's wrong. And then through the months, I mean, this story is so long, I'll kind of sum it up. But through the months, I had learned very quickly. I thought I had local politicians on my side. I thought I had state representatives on my side. I thought the system would help. And pretty much I had one obstacle after another, one exposure I had to do after another. Between the health departments were a complete disaster. Their cancer data was years behind. They don't look at schools. They don't look at latency periods. And the excuses were awful. It was everything from, that's not our job. We don't have the funding. We don't have the personnel. I mean, it was just one nightmare meeting after another. And through this, the chemists started testing. We had no idea what was going on. So they started trying to test water and, basic testing because we didn't know. And then all of a sudden, I was putting this out there. I was collecting my own health studies. I created surveys and I was calling people and asking them, hey, if there's something wrong, please report it to me. I'll keep it confidential. And my email and phone was off the hook for a year of all these people with cancer. It wasn't just my daughter and it wasn't just thyroid cancer. They had an eye cancer cluster on that lake. They had young people getting all these different cancers. My daughter's high school, there was a list of all these cancers. I mean, it was unbelievable. And I just didn't know what I was dealing with. And I originally just thought it was thyroid cancer. I didn't know. And lo and behold, through the year of doing my own investigative work, I have a background in research and investigative work, my career. So I use that skill set to do something. And I learned that we did have actually a cancer cluster, a thyroid cancer cluster, which the state refused to say the words cancer cluster, which is another problem I found, because nobody wants to say that word because it will hurt property values and it will scare people. And pretty much then they have to actually do their jobs. So they will not say those words across America. But I also learned, because all these people who, I wasn't from the area, we had been living there about over 10 years, 12 years, but I learned through all these people who did live in that area that our lake and the southern part of the lake was a nuclear power plant, and the northern part of the lake was a steam station, a coal burning steam station. And I learned that that lovely coal, what happens to it after it was burned? After it's burned, it's actually more dangerous and toxic, contains a lot of heavy metals that all are linked to different illnesses and cancers. And then I learned that the state knew this all along, by the way. I sat in a meeting with a politician who knew and didn't even tell me in our meeting after meeting after meeting for 6 weeks, didn't tell me until I found this out myself. And then he recused himself from the meeting, right? But I learned that they used this coal ash to build all over the town. Structural fill. They used it, they mixed it with soil, landscaping, dumped it next to my daughter's high school, where I have all these parents calling me because their kids have had cancer over the last 10 years. Used it near parks, used it around shopping centers. I mean, this was treated like dirt.
Yeah.
And that's where I started to become an expert, I would say, on coal ash.
Okay. It's interesting, this morning, I was doing some research, online, and because when you and I connected, we had talked, and you brought up coal ash, and I'm like, I never even gave it a thought, because here in central Pennsylvania, I mean, even Pennsylvania, that's a big push here in PA is, back to coal industry and power and everything. And there's a lot of sites here in Pennsylvania that have these coal ash dumps. And, something that I found is, like you said, they use it for fill, for landscaping and everything. But then there's other products that they're using it. And as I'm researching, I'm like, I found they've made it into like, bowling balls and some other stuff. And it's like, what? It goes back to PFAS. It's the thousands of products that PFAS is in. How many products is this coal ash stuff put into that Americans or even people around the world are using, that they're they have no idea these things are in there. And then I found that the DoD is now involved, multi-million-dollar program with a company here in Pennsylvania to try to extract out of this coal ash, to extract these rare earth metals from that. So other than dumping it, now they're looking at taking this coal ash and trying to extract these rare earth metals out of it. And I couldn't find anything this morning, but just the question is, what does that process cause? And then what are they going to do with that waste? Are they going to dump it, or there's a million questions with this. And I think, you're doing a fantastic job. I'm sure it's exhausting, because none of us really should have to be scientists, researchers. We should expect these companies to provide this information, on the toxicity and the side effects of all this, but they're not. So individuals like you and I have to sort of dig and dig and dig. And I just can't imagine what you've gone through, up to this point. I know you've told me on the phone and everything and said, hey, this thing's exhausting, but
well,
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I mean, coal ash is the next PFAS crisis in this country. PFAS is in all this stuff and wasn't regulated properly, wasn't tested properly. And obviously, unless Rob Bilott, all the work he did, and he was a lawyer, so he had also that advantage, right? And him being able to just go after the polluter and expose, and the lawsuits where he actually had a successful funded study, millions of dollars, took years. But because of all of his work, like we wouldn't even still be talking about PFAS, but now it's huge. And the same with coal ash, it has been pretty much protected. The industry has, all these industries and polluters have pretty much hijacked the EPA from day one. So they pay for their science. They say it's safe. And we are used as guinea pigs in this country. We are science experiments. In Europe, you look at other countries, they have to actually test products before they roll them out in the environment. The United States, it's the opposite. We just trust the polluters that it's safe because they have the same playbook, the same script, whether it's PFAS, whether it's coal ash, whether it's nuclear, whether it's, any single. We can talk about this all day, but they always say it's safe. There's no health impacts. There's nothing wrong. And then we watch through years or decades later, all of our friends, neighbors, and so forth fall ill to cancer. And we've pretty much normalized cancer in this country. It's like, it's okay to have cancer. Everyone gets cancer. And what people don't understand is our kids, it's getting worse and worse and worse. Our lifespans are getting cut. And these kids and their kids, they are going to be in trouble because of the way this system is so broken and works in this country. Doesn't work. Doesn't work in this country. It doesn't work. It's a failure. And with the coal ash, 50% of the coal ash in this country is not even regulated. Okay. And also understand that you ask scientists and doctors, independent, right? Doctors and scientists who aren't paid by the utility companies, every single one of them, even the EPA says, if you're exposed to this stuff, causes cancers and illnesses, okay, either through inhalation or ingestion. A lot of the research focuses on the water because these coal ash dumps, when they were originally built, they were in unlined pits. So they're seeping into the groundwater, which is a lot of our drinking water supply. And then you've got the problem with our water standards in this country are a joke. They have never been updated in decades. And we have all these carcinogens that aren't even tested for. Okay, that is a complete failure with this country, and water is at risk because we don't even test for these carcinogens. But then you have the utility companies telling you, oh my gosh, we monitor this. It's so safe. It's safe. You're fine. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. And that's something that, when I was going through the internet this morning, dating back to, the early 2000s and stuff. And that was the narrative. It was that, oh, coal ash is, it's safe, or, it's non-toxic, it's perfectly fine. And then, I got to thinking, I'm like, okay, as you mentioned coal ash, I'm like, growing up, a lot of folks here in Central PA were using coal, at home. And they would take that ash and put it around their gardens and everything like that. And I did find out, there is a little bit of a difference between residential coal ash and then industrial. But at the end of the day, it's still toxic. It still has these rare earth metals, these hazards, health impacts that are associated with it. And, I just can't imagine, here in PA, there's a lot of cancer clusters. There's a lot of cancer in the area. And it just makes me wonder, aside from the other chemicals that are out there, how much of that cancer is associated with coal ash that, over the generations, was just dumped, or spread or trucked in to backfill, areas, because there's a lot of low-lying areas, swampy areas and stuff, to where I have to imagine that, in order to bring those up, so you can develop, they trucked in, this coal ash, and nobody was told. And that's the problem with whether it's a manufacturer, chemical manufacturer, or these organizations, they're not telling the public, hey, there's a potential, there's a health risk potential here. And so that's frightening.
When I started doing, I've been doing extensive research for the last 5 years on coal ash, and I connected with people in towns all over America. Tragedy hit Kingston, Tennessee, a dam broke. All these people were exposed to coal ash this was, I think, 13, 14 years ago. To date, over 54 have died and over 200 have cancers and illnesses because they inhaled this. It's particle dust. It's you can't see it. And it's so tiny and it can lodge if you inhale it. it's hard to get out of your system. It can go to organs in your body, the bloodstream. But I did connect with tons of people. I also have testified at EPA hearings about coal ash. And I did connect with a group I remember in Pennsylvania, because there are many different types of contaminate. There's hot spots, I call them, all over the country. And you do have some coal ash hotspots in Pennsylvania. And I remember connecting with this amazing journalist who wrote on coal ash, and her stories are great. A lot of them have to do with the different states. And she had told me where she grew up, that they called it the thyroid belt. It was almost like normal that everybody got thyroid cancer, thyroid diseases from this area where they had all this coal ash dumping. And same story. The states want to dismiss it, and they want to say it's fine. They basically believe the polluters is what has happened. And I will mention that my story, and we can't say, like, there's never a smoking gun, believe it or not, in any of these cancer stories, because epidemiology will say, well, you can't really link this to this because you might have given your kid when they were young a Diet Coke. You may have had too many dental x-rays. You may have got it in this place because you haven't lived there your whole life. Like, there is an excuse, and it really helps the polluters get away with their tactics, because health departments and epidemiology, they don't look at it as, let's attack this from a different angle and say, okay, we have all these cancers, let's map them, let's figure out where this could be coming from. But my story had gone out nationally. I wanted to share it. And what's most infuriating to me today, July of 2022, is that North Carolina pretty much dismissed this. They put their heads in the coal ash sand is what they did, okay? And made excuses, tried to say, we did a study, we did this. I mean, it was all a complete dismissal. And today I have Chapel Hill, North Carolina, today voted 8. There's 9, I believe, council members, and 8 out of 1 voted yes. We're going to build low-income housing on top of all of this coal ash in Chapel Hill. Just because they want money, and the developers and the builders, they all care about profits. And I have the one guy from there. He did his research and he contacted me. A doctor contacted me. People were calling me going, okay, this can't be safe. And we're seeing, a lot about North Carolina coal ash. I wrote letters. I sent examples. We've had people say, don't do this, don't do this. They still, as of today, are planning on building low-income housing. Okay. They call it low-income and moderate housing, right? But they're building it on coal ash, which is, to me, pretty much at this point now, environmental injustice, that you're going to put people on this contamination, which used to be a brownfield site, all because you want to have money for the city, money for your agendas, money for your wallets. I mean, this is disgusting. And so you would think they would learn from my story, because I exposed the truth. I found records going back to the 1980s and 90s showing how this coal ash got to be this wonderful, reuse program in North Carolina. And people knew that this could be an environmental disaster. They knew it could cause health issues. They knew, but they still did it. And you think they'd learn today? No, they're going to use it right now in Chapel Hill.
Yeah, it's, and that's something I've said, just watching legislators with, PFAS and other contamination sites, is that, it seems like it's profits over lives. They're looking at this development, how do we bring in more jobs, more people into the community? And that's all great. I'm all for, developing, communities. But you can't develop communities and poison them at the same time. That's just, there's so much wrong with that. And who's benefiting off of these developments? That's what I like to know. And it's, what's the agenda? What's the motive behind all of that? And how do we? The big thing is, who do we hold accountable for that? Do we go after the companies that polluted the areas, or do we go after those that are allowing it to happen? And a lot of times, we see, politicians, community members that are involved in, like you said, they're proposing these developments, or they're pushing forward. It's almost, and I don't mean to use the pun, but it's almost like they're Teflon. Nothing sticks to them. And, you try holding them accountable, and it's just like, well, I'm in this position and there's nothing you can do. And, and people get frustrated. They keep trying and trying and trying. And eventually they get burnt out. They're like, okay, I'm just spinning my wheels here. I'm not making any progress. And then they stop. And I think that's what these individuals that are behind all of this count on, is that eventually these folks are going to go away. It's just like those folks that are sick from pollution. Eventually we're going to go away, and then they don't have to hear from us anymore.
Right. I mean, most pollution in this country, most of like areas that are contaminated, let's say Superfund sites where traditionally they would dump waste and so forth, is usually in lower income areas and rural areas. So they target people and they don't have a voice. Okay. I meet with these people and it's almost like they've just learned like, yeah, we're being poisoned and we're going to die. Like that's the mentality across America. Okay. If you're in those areas, you also have areas where people are military bases across this country. I mean, it is sickening how I look at a lot of schools are contaminated because they're cheap land. I know schools that are built next to dump sites or previous brownfield or Superfund areas, and military bases are also contaminated between dumping. We know with all the PFAS stories coming out with the water supply, the military, like it just all infuriates me because it infuriates me because I look at how these are people who are giving their lives for this country, and this is how we repay them by poisoning them. And I'm recently doing working with people in Hawaii who are drinking jet fuel. Okay.
Yeah.
And these people are right now suffering. Their kids are sick and they're being dismissed. It's the same story over and over again. I just can't even tell you like all the stories that I've heard. And that's what I've pretty much done over the years, is connected with so many people like me. I thought it was just me. This just happened to me. And then I'm like, oh no, this is happening all over. Everybody is pretty much has the same playbook, same story.
Yeah.
And we'll, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Yep. Hey, there we
sorry.
go. No, we were cutting in and out. So the Zoom
sorry.
was cutting out, but we're good.
Sorry. So, and then obviously through this advocacy work, I learned with the firefighters, this was new to me because I have been connecting with mothers across America and all these different military families across America, and just this is what I've been doing. And then I learned about firefighters, and I was in complete shock when I learned about not just the foam that is dangerous with PFAS, but the actual issue with the gear, and seeing these, my husband was in the military. He was in the Army National Guard. And he was also, he's a retired police officer. And I have a lot of respect for people who I believe in all of those areas, fire, police, EMS, military. They don't sign up to do these jobs to get wealthy. They want to do this. They want to help people. That's what they do. They want to do this. So here they are doing their job, and now they have to worry about contamination and cancer. And it's just, all of this was coming to me over the last years of connecting with people and advocating. And that's where I was like, you know what, this system is completely broken. This system it doesn't work. And watching all these people get sick at young ages, watching a wife lose her husband, and they just had kids, and they can't now be at their kids' weddings someday and watch their kids grow up, watching all these children get cancer and dying, and all because of where they live or where they work. I just could not, I don't even know what to do with this. So that's where I was like, hey guys, I think we all need a huge movement and bring all of us together, because our voices will be heard if we are in these large numbers and we work together for the sole purpose of letting everyone know you gotta advocate for yourself, people, because no one is looking out for you anymore. No agency is going to help you when it comes to your health.
Absolutely. And I tell my firefighters that, that are still in the military and everything, it's like, even when I was on active duty, we have to steer our own medical care, because a lot of times when I went to for my annual occupational health exam, I would walk into the doctor's office and the first thing out of their mouth is, hey, how do you feel today? Okay. Most of the time we're like, yeah, we feel okay. And then it was just, a few, insincere questions, and responses back. And then we were sent on our way. And it's like, I had one experience. I walk in, I had some knee problems. Doctor never even got out of her chair, never even turned around, just typed in the computer, never even examined my knee. And I'm like, what is going on here? And that's, I encourage, people to go talk to their patient advocacy, if they're not getting the care and stuff that, they think they should, or, they deserve. But yeah, it's with the whole firefighter thing, and it's not just military firefighters, we're talking municipal firefighters, in our own communities. And this is a global issue, with firefighting. And I've always said, it's firefighting is inherently dangerous. We know that going in. Same thing with police, same thing, EMS, there's some risk involved with that. Any emergency service, there's some type of risk that we know going in, whether we're paid or we're volunteer, that we have to accept. But things I've told, other firefighters, members of Congress, is that, look, we never signed up to get sick. I don't think anybody would willingly sign up and say, yep, I know I'm going to get this disease or this cancer, but I'm still going to do it anyhow. There are some folks that, they say, look, I just want to give back to the community. I want to help as many people as I can. I get it. But at the same time, we are the protectors. Who's protecting us, emergency responders, from these diseases, this contamination? And I've said, and I've talked to you about this, I don't fault fellow firefighters or the instructors. I fault the leaders that had knowledge about these things. I fault the manufacturers that provided the products and don't say anything because of industry trade secrets or competitiveness. And it's like, I think you have a moral and ethical obligation to reveal this product may cause cancer or may harm you if used in certain dosages, but they don't do that.
No, through all this work I've done, I pretty much I feel that morals and values are just not the norm today. They're not, because if which again, when people find out through lawyers and through FOIAs and through all this investigative work, and you learn, like, people, they know it could cause cancer, like the whole PFAS story, they knew. Okay. They know that even people at the EPA, they knew, you knew, what is wrong with you? Like, I honestly just can't even relate, because I guess it's okay that people are going to get cancer. It's all right. Or it's not my kid, or it's not my husband or wife. Like, I don't even know what to say to that anymore. I feel like humanity is just not even a norm today. Like, people don't look out for each other, and they don't, everyone's out for themselves, and profits obviously money precedes over health. And I learned that the hard way too. When I exposed what happened where I lived, it was a very affluent area. And I had people come to me and they were like, your work is going to hurt my property values. I just built my dream house. You're going to ruin my property values if you don't stop talking. I mean, these were so-called friends of mine, and people and neighbors would say this to me, and then when their kid gets cancer or their husband, they're the first to call me and go, I think you were right. I think there's a problem here. And it's just mind blowing. Like, I don't understand. And through all the work I'm doing, I will tell you, usually it's the moms and the women. Sometimes it's the men too, but it's usually the moms and the women. And they are attacked. They are discredited. They are disrespected. I can't even tell you, I have spoken to over 100 advocate moms just like me across America who you'll meet in DC. And they have the same story. Everyone's calling them a hypochondriac, that they're making up stuff. They're emotional. They're fear mongers. Why? Like, that is the excuse that you use. I mean, that's disgusting, because they're not going to advocate for my kid, and somebody is going to let everybody know what's going on and blow the whistle, just like Diane did with the firefighters. She was one of the first to come out about the gear. And she didn't do it. The damage was done. Her husband already got cancer. The damage was done for me. My daughter has cancer, but we did it because we were like, we don't want other people to get cancer. We don't want this to keep happening. That's why we do it. But we get attacked. Yep. So you see so many people that know stuff that can't even come forward because they're so scared of retaliation.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I've said that many a time. And you know, I get it with the firefighters that, you know, that convey their concerns to me anonymously. Because, and I always say do that anonymously, because that fear of intimidation and reprisal, especially, you know, active duty military and DoD civilians, you know, I get it. They, you know, they have, you know, families to take care of, and whatnot, but it doesn't matter whether you're a firefighter, you're a civilian, whatever. You should have that ability to question, openly question, without being intimidated, reprised upon. But that's not how it is. And you know, with me, I've put myself out there. I do this to, like you said, make sure future generations don't go through what we're going through today. And I've been blacklisted, I've been blackballed, I've been, I haven't had, you know, death threats yet, but you know, who knows? You know, they're probably out there. I just haven't heard of it yet. But I know, you know, people have talked negatively about me, and it's like, hey, you know, stop questioning this and stop throwing people under the bus. But it's like, it's accountability. You know, that's why I do it, and I think you do as well, as, you know, and others, and many others, is hold these people accountable, because they knew, you know, like the Air Force. I mean, they knew since the 1970s with PFAS, and yet nothing was done. And here we are today, you know, and we've got firefighters and civilians and family members that are sick, and they're asking why. What, you know, why? You know, why am I sick, and why was this allowed to go on? And I think, you know, with the coal ash and you know, other things, it's like, I think that's the big question, is why. You know, and you know, I did a blog, you know, and I sort of adopted it from somebody else, is that you ask 5 whys and you usually end up getting the answer. You keep asking why. You know, you ask the first one, you know, why did this happen? And then you get a response. Well, then you ask, well, why, you know, why was that done? And you keep going, and eventually you uncover more and more information and find answers. But it's that first why that usually those that know, those that are responsible, they naturally go on the defense and start questioning you and doing what they can to make you and I look bad, you know, to you know, protect themselves. And, you know, that's just, I mean, that's just where we are today. Like you said, I think our morals and values somewhere, you know, they got lost. You know, thank God there's folks like you, me, Diane, many others that are out there are fighting a good fight. But, you know, at some point, you know, we all get burnt out. You know, it's like, you know, I've questioned, you know, why do I keep going? You know, why am I putting forth all this effort? And then I look at the big picture. It's not about me. It's about those that are out there that are looking at us, and then those that, you know, future generations. But
I think everybody, you can't make everyone happy, and not everyone's going to like you. I mean, that's just life in general, right? And I think that for me, I continue to share our story and advocate for everybody, because if it can save one life, to me, one child one wife or husband. Like if we could save one person by telling them and giving them this information, because knowledge is power, hopefully they can do something to protect themselves, whether it is not to live a certain place, not to drink water certain places or ever, to get RO water, not, maybe to think twice about being in the military or a firefighter, which I don't like to discourage, but hey, if it's going to be, I can get cancer more than the chances of me being killed in the line of duty. That's something you need to look at. I have a son, I have 2 daughters and a son, and those are the questions I would want him to know before making any type of choice with his future. So I also I'm very concerned for military and firefighters across America now with all of this PFAS coming out, because through my work, I've met hundreds of lawyers throughout a lot of the stuff I've done and of people I've spoke to. And I hope no one is being taken advantage of through this development. And I really hope everybody, I'm seeing so many commercials on TVs, I'm seeing a lot. And I really, and I follow a lot of groups on social media, and I'm seeing a lot. And I hope everybody does their research before they jump into something, because I would hate for people to take advantage of firefighters, military, anybody who's sick because they lived or worked in a certain area that's been proven that it's caused cancer. But please do your homework and just be careful, because I see, working in the criminal justice field for 25 years, I just see a lot of people getting taken advantage of. So please be careful.
Yeah. Yep. So folks want to know, I like to know, how's your daughter today? How's she doing today with everything that she's endured?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Well, she kind of stays behind the scenes. This has been really traumatic for our family over the years. Even my husband this morning, having breakfast with him, we're broken sometimes.
Yeah.
And I mean, so it's really hard. But I will say that they all think, every advocate, like you, me, all these people, they love people like us. Like that's what matters the most. My kids are so proud of all the work all of us do. So that really makes me feel good about being a mom and an advocate. But so her cancer, she had the first time, when I mentioned back when we lived in North Carolina. And I will say I did move after 2 years of trying to get help and get cleanup and get testing and being dismissed and treated horribly with the state of North Carolina. I said, I'm not sticking around another day to expose my kids to this. So we moved, we live in Florida now. And my daughter, I was close to her, which was wonderful because she went through college over the years. She got cancer again last year. It had spread, metastasized cancer, spread all over her neck. The first surgery, they cut her ear to ear and removed her thyroid and numerous lymph nodes and her parathyroids that all had cancer. That was the first round. The second round last year, we found, which was horrible, and plus it was during COVID and we couldn't get into doctors and so forth like we should have. So it probably spread worse over the year. We couldn't get in, but it spread. She no longer has a thyroid. She had that removed, but the cancer had spread in more lymph nodes around her carotid artery and around her voice box, and then in her chest. And that's what happens with thyroid cancer. It just likes to, it's slow growing, but it likes to spread into these areas right here. Yeah. So we had that last summer, exactly a year ago, August 2nd. And then we got news in December with our scans right after her surgery and everything that cancer was already growing back again. So we go for scans this Monday, and pretty much our reality is this cancer's not going away, and she will have to do another surgery. The radiation is not working. It's been rough. I mean, I call her a kid. She's turning 22. She just graduated. She's a registered nurse. She got a great job out of college. She loves helping people. I mean, she has a great story. She doesn't talk about it at all, but you see her huge scars all across her neck every day when she wears her scrubs. But I mean, you have to take medicine every day, the rest of your life. Her, a lot of our doctors we love don't take her insurance. We travel to her doctors we love. She just was doing her new job. She was just signing up for health insurance and all this good stuff. She won't get life insurance pretty much because she has a pre-existing condition. Her health insurance is not good enough for what she needs. I mean, this is what she was robbed all these years. Like, this is what a freshly graduated 22-year-old is dealing with in her life, and has to take her pill the same time every day, has to take supplements and medicine. When you don't have a thyroid, you're so tired. So she works 12, 13-hour shifts into her job, but she pushes through. I mean, she's positive and goes through, but I won't lie. Like, we drive 4.5 hours on Monday for our scans, and we usually get news we don't like, and we cry half the way home. And then the other half, we just talk about the positive things in our lives and turn it around. But it's rough. I mean, this is adults are living with this too. I mean, cancer is, it's whatever kind of cancer you have, like it comes into your family. It's a lot. And for people to just dismiss it and normalize it is horrible. That's the society I live in today.
Yeah. Yep. It's, with firefighters, they transition from line of duty deaths, from cardiac related, stress related, to now occupational cancer. And, the folks are out there saying, 70% of firefighters are going to develop some form of cancer. And, it's the way they talk about it, like you said, it's almost, it's expected. It's the norm, but that's not how it should be.
No, we have to fix this.
Yeah. And I appreciate you conveying your daughter's story and the experiences that she goes through, because it opens up the eyes of folks out there that may not be aware. Hey, yes, this individual has cancer, but then there's all of this other stuff that impacts their lifestyle, the families, the families that are involved. So it's not just one person that's dealing with cancer. It's multiple.
The whole family. Kids are burying their parents. They're young parents. Kids are burying their parents. Kids should not have to see this. And then us, like my daughter, my husband, I mean, he said this to me this morning. He's like, I don't want to outlive my kid.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, this is, it's horrible. And so I do believe, I mean, we can talk all day and it's all depressing and sad and stuff, right? And I've cried a lot. People are always like, how do you talk about it and not get upset? Oh, I cry a lot. Trust me. I've cried a lot for years. I cry for other people. Yesterday, I mean, I'm talking to people with cancer every day because of this protest we're doing. And so what I'm trying to do is take all of this horrible stuff, horrible news we're all getting and learning, and turning this around. So this just brings me, because I know our time won't be that much longer we have. So I just wanted to, my goal is to bring everyone together. First of all, that's the first thing it has to do, because we need to hand deliver to all these agencies in Washington, EPA being number one on the list, because they're supposed to be protecting our environment. Okay. But I mean, this is a mess for the Department of Health and Human Services, CDC, ATSDR, like we can go down, Congress, like I don't care what party you're affiliated with. This is a mess for everybody who we are leaders. And we need, first of all, all of us are handing, this is evidence to show it's not just one mother, it's not just one firefighter, it's not just one town, it's not just one contaminant, one polluter. This is pretty much a national crisis is what we have here, when we have the same story, different people, different occupations, different polluters, and it's the same playbook. We're going to write that playbook and hand this over to everyone and be like, this is what you have done for decades to these people. Okay. So we're going to expose that through this movement, which will be powerful. And I hope every single person listening can get involved, whether you can be there, whether you can spread the word, you can help us. I have been spending the last year meeting hundreds of people, fundraising, so we can make this very impactful. And we have a list of demands that we will be publishing and giving to these agencies. Okay, let's just give you some common sense demands, what needs to happen in all of these areas. So I've asked people for their information because they are experts or they meet experts, and I'm all about, I want to learn, because I'm not an expert in all these different contaminants and problems. I mean, I'm learning about all of them, trust me.
Yeah.
But I want all of us to come together and present these demands, and we need to have solutions. And I know, I'm a realist, this is not going to be fixed overnight. The damage is done for most of these towns and water supply systems. I mean, military bases, it's done. The damage is done. We definitely need people to be held accountable. And if people are not going to hold the polluters accountable, then guess what? You need to rework your entire system here, because this is ridiculous that these people have to fight. And even with lawsuits, it doesn't clean it up. It doesn't clean it up. And I'm sorry, even though it doesn't fix all these people have cancer, and they're still going to get cancer. So I think we have to come together and learn how we, the people, have to advocate for ourselves. I'm all about solution-based ideas, as far as I think there should be disclosure. Like, people should know. They should have everything on in those uniforms has to be disclosed. Everything on these bases. So if you choose to go be in the military and live on this base, it has to be disclosed, all the contaminants. If you choose to buy a house, that builder developer needs to tell you, oh yeah, it was built with this toxin. We need to map, and we need to do real-time health data to show everybody what's going on with technology. We can use apps, we can use social media, we can use all these different technology-based devices. We have to do something, because people shouldn't be blindsided, and we need to tell people so they can make decisions. If they choose, like, hey, I don't care, cancer's in everything, I'm good with that. Fine, you knew. But for people, most people that are blindsided by this, it's not okay, and we got to fix that.
Well, I always compare it. We walk up and down the grocery aisle. You have everything's, on the back. At least we hope the ingredients, you look at a canned product or whatever, it's got a list of ingredients in there, and you make an informed decision. You read the ingredients and say, yeah, that may be healthy. That's not healthy. That's got this and that in it,
Exactly.
But I'm still going to get it.
Disclose it. It's disclosed.
Exactly. Yep. We should, that very same thing should be occurring with the products that we use. And it doesn't matter what products it is, whether it's carpeting, firefighting foam, turnout gear, this, that, the millions of products that are out there. We should be able to look at a label of some type and say, this is what this product contains. And then we say yes or no to whether we're going to use it or not. But because of these legal loopholes that protect these manufacturers, it's they don't have to disclose that because of whether it's competitiveness or industry trade secrets. Well, again, you've gone back and said the EPA, and it's ironic because it has the word protection in there.
It protects the polluters. Protects the polluters.
Yep, exactly. So you talked about this movement. What is it? Where is it? When is it?
So it's September 20th in Washington, D.C. It'll be outside the EPA headquarters. We hired an event company, and if you follow us, maybe you can put this up somewhere when you post. We have social media pages, we have a website, we have an email list of everybody who's interested, and we will be sharing all of the specific details and logistics in the upcoming weeks. We have speakers, which we will be announcing in a few weeks, representation from all these different areas. I've got people from the fires who want to represent them. I'm so excited when you see who's coming and who will be speaking to represent all the firefighters across the country. We also have some powerful speeches by some military folks who are pretty much known as the top advocates in the country. They will be there speaking, and a list of a lot of others we can't wait to roll out. Everybody I've met has just been, this is our movement. This is everybody's work. And I, in a sad time of our lives, and everyone's feeling it somehow, it does bring you some joy to see people that are so passionate, and just, we can all come together. Nobody is, there's no, like in this country today, we're so divisive and everybody has their opinions and everybody, all these controversial topics, everyone's always fighting. It's horrible what's going to happen. But when it comes to cancer and contamination and illnesses, I feel like all these people can come together, and we're not arguing and debating anything. We're not, we're putting our politics or anything aside and just coming together to say, this is not okay. It is not okay. People are getting cancer and getting sick. And I am so excited for this in some ways, because I am thankful for all the support. We're going to see all the support out there on September 20th in Washington, D.C. So we will post that. You can share our site for people who are interested. Thank you for everybody who wants to help. I am just humbled all the time when I meet people, and I'm like, wow. And every story is powerful. Every human is powerful when they tell us stuff. And it makes us advocates who feel like it's such a lonely world, know that we're not alone. So thank you so much. And for giving me this platform here to talk about all this today. It's super important. And so sorry for the little puppy barking.
That's all right.
Sorry.
Well, I've said, I've said this to you, in our various conversations and many others, strength in numbers. This is going to be a gathering of like-minded individuals that says, hey, we need to hold these folks accountable. We need to stop polluting, our communities, really this planet. And, it's, it is a peaceful protest, folks. If you intend to go, we expect it to be fully peaceful. We don't want to see, any negativity, because
it's a positive movement. It's a positive movement. But I think, everyone needs to show, like, I want everyone to see, we have tons of media coming, tons, because I want everyone to see, like, this is not just one person and one story, it's a ton of the same stories. There's a problem here.
And that's going to really shine a light on the significance of this, because we see it on the news, we read about it, and it's usually one person or a couple folks. But then when you get a mass group of individuals together, whether they're sick or they're supporters, then that really shows the significance of it. You start, it's just like data. You can collect all this data, and it's really hard to comprehend the significance of it just looking at some charts or anything like that. But when you put faces to everything, I think that creates a bigger impact, because now it's real. It's things on paper, they're inanimate. When you put something or someone in front of you and says, this person is sick, or this person had to deal with it with a family member, and then you start, more people start showing up, it's like, holy crap, we really need to do something about this. And I think that's what's lacking, or folks have lost touch with that. It's like, it goes back to that, well, everybody's going to get sick. I hear that a lot in the fire service. Oh, it's the job. We're all going to get sick. We're going to get cancer. Well, no, we don't have to.
No,
we absolutely do not have to. And if we allow ourselves to do that, shame on us. We're all fighters. We keep hearing cancer, cancer warriors, cancer fighters and stuff. But we all have that warrior mentality in us. We just need to, maybe for some more than others, they just need to be encouraged to speak up and take action. And I think, with you at the helm on this, gathering, putting together this event, I think that's it is a movement. It's going to start people, doing more, and holding those accountable, because, again, strength in numbers, it's money talks, and, it usually influences folks, but
money can buy can buy anything today, including a soul. Including a soul. And if you are okay with knowing that something could cause cancer, I don't care if it's one kid, one person, because they want to use numbers like, well, statistically it could only cause this amount. No, one person's life matters. And so until what side are you on? And these agencies, I believe in my heart, a lot of these people who do sign up to be scientists and want to help communities when they get started in their career, like, I do believe that they're good people who, they want to make a difference when it comes to public health. And I believe that. But unfortunately, the system, and they learn once they get in those systems, is completely broken. And you either play the game or you leave. And if you speak out, and you'll hear from some, like, we have whistleblower stories. I mean, we have groups supporting us because people try to speak out and their life is awful. They're trying to make their lives awful. So anyway, I'm just thankful everyone's coming together. I'm thankful for people sharing their stories. These are powerful stories. I mean, I have a list here. It's so long, but it's just everything from, obviously the firefighter stories, the military stories. There's different military stories, including, again, the PFAS. We've got the jet fuel. We have all these radioactive dumps, landfills.
Oh yeah.
We have 6 schools. We have these oil and gas spills, and I hope everybody watches this weekend. We're rolling out a production company has been so awesome helping us. They're doing a fundraiser this weekend, which if we can share, to watch the whole story about the Deep Horizon, the oil spill years ago in the Gulf. And when you see this story, they followed people and towns and workers for 9 years they followed. And you see how the system works and how they're still using chemicals today to clean oil spills that cause cancer. And you watch people get sick. So I hope everyone watches it this weekend, because you can see what we're up against. And it's so many stories, and every story matters, and every person matters, and every child matters. And I just hope we failed our kids. The system failed our kids. And I just hope we can do something that they don't have to have a bigger mess than we have today. So
well, we will definitely have those links on the podcast. They're going to be in the description, whether on YouTube or any of the podcast channels out there. So we will share that. Everything we talked about today, we're going to have links on there. And we'll make sure folks show up. So, as we start to wrap up here, is there anything? I always give my guests the last word. Anything that you haven't talked about, or you think I got to get this off my chest?
I don't know. I say a lot. I do say a lot. I talk a lot, and I don't even know. I don't want any parent to go through a kid with cancer, and I don't want any husband, wife to watch their loved one go through cancer. I don't wish it on anyone. And these cancers are not coincidental, which they try to tell you they are. So we're going to show you, no, this is a mess, and this is your mess. So I don't know. I just want everyone to support us. That's all I really have to say. I've said a lot, and I appreciate it. And I will still be advocating that coal ash is deemed a hazardous waste, because it's that one last thing I didn't say was because it's non-hazardous. They pretty much are letting this be used and recycled across America with minimal regulations. And we've seen this over and over again. And hopefully somebody will wake up someday and do the right thing and not make it another PFAS nightmare. We're waiting for the next Rob Balot to come help us with coal ash, which he can't, but I'm just saying somebody else. And this is not okay. So thank you so much for having me on your podcast, for letting me have this voice. I appreciate people like you all the time that will do this for everybody.
Oh, you're absolutely welcome. And folks, as Susan said, September 20th, we will be converging on Washington, D.C. Myself and the Weekend Wrap Up podcast will be down there. So be sure, all audience members, if you're in the D.C. area, on September 20th, come on down, support Susan, and
support your firefighters, support your vets, support your military. This is for them.
There you go.
Too.
Yep. So even if you're not in the DC area, jump on a plane, jump in your car, jump on a bus, whatever you got to do. But get to DC. Again, this is going to be a peaceful protest, just to let the world know, let the EPA know, hey, we are here. It's time to act, and we need to protect ourselves and our future generations. So with that, folks, again, we just want to give a great shout out to Susan for being on the podcast today. She is a wealth of information. She does have a lot to talk about. For an hour, it's hard to compress a lot of that in there, but
it'll be in a book. It'll be in a book someday.
There you go, folks. We are looking forward to that. But honestly, Susan, I mean, just the short time you and I have had to chat multiple times on the phone or on social media. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on that opened my eyes up. And this platform, you're always a welcome guest here. To go ahead and share stuff. We may not have talked a lot about firefighters, but this is an issue that does affect firefighters, their families, communities around the world. So take this information, folks, run with it, share it, and But yeah, we'll have like I said, links, contact information, all that stuff. So you're informed on this. So with that, folks, that's going to do it for another episode of the Weekend Wrap Up. You've been listening to myself and Susan, more Susan than myself talking, which is perfectly fine. And yeah, so with that, that's going to do it. And as always, keep supporting your local fire emergency services, no matter where you're at. Stay safe. And until next time, we are out of here.
Veteran-owned and operated AFSO 21 Agile Fire Service Organization for the 21st century applies their extensive background in fire protection and emergency services to deliver support with identifying, developing, implementing, and maintaining strategies and techniques essential to operate and sustain an emergency response organization. AFSO 21 services include staffing analysis, risk assessment, standards of cover, training, management, and financial reviews. AFSO 21 is prepared to support your organization with increasing your capabilities values. For more information, please go to afso21.com. That's AFSO21.com.